Juniper Networks manufactures networking equipment, which it's said somewhere between 65 and 75% of the planet's packets cross as they're on the internet. Very heavily used in large data networking environments run by carriers like British Telecom, AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Spectrum. Um, the list goes on. And just basically, if you're a carrier, you've got some Juniper within your network, and some carriers only have Juniper within their networks. So when it's coming time to make the internet work, it's the Juniper Networks equipment that accomplishes that task. What you're looking at is the headquarters in Sunnyvale, California. A couple of buildings, Class A office space. Doesn't really look like much, but it's from here that the headquarters and executive team operate out of, as well as something called the POC lab, proof of concept lab. They have other proof of concept labs in other areas of the world. This is the one in the headquarters. With the campus, a couple of buildings in order for professional staff to work out of. This here is the Juniper Networks headquarter POC lab. What occurs here is network engineers from the largest carriers in the world come in order to test out new data networking ideas and features. Try to find use cases for the new features and see how they work running on Juniper hardware. It's a very important place for what goes on with data networking around the world. I want to provide some context because you might be asking yourself, why do I need to know JunOS? Cisco has the market lead, and Juniper barely has any market presence, so why do I need it? And the truth is that if you're not operating a global data network and you're not a network engineer in a carrier grade network, you may not. At least that's traditionally been the case. Now, Juniper has been making great strides in the enterprise environment with their acquisition of a company called Mist that has 802.11 hardware and an AI engine in order to manage the spectrum of 802.11 transport. A historically difficult thing to stay on top of, and it works surprisingly well, from what I understand. And they've also complemented their Ethernet switching platforms in order to provide a comprehensive solution for enterprises that Gartner is called out as Juniper now being a market leader in the enterprise segment, and they're making great strides. Still, from what I understand, more than 2/3 of their business is with large carriers, but the enterprise market is picking up. So JunOS is around everywhere. You might not see it if you're not one of the select few in carrier networking. However, it's becoming increasingly common in enterprises. And so if you're in one of those two locations and you want a quick primer on JunOS, that's what this is all about. I'm using the Juniper VLabs. It's a free service just to show some commands. All right, so what we're looking at is the command line for a Juniper device. Specifically, it's a VMX. The MX routing platform is their flagship routing platform, and this is the virtual version, which can be run in AWS, Azure, ESXi, KVM, so on and so forth. All right, so as a primer, a couple of commands that you'll want to know is show config. And similar to Cisco, you could show config interfaces, and then you just get the interface config. What I like about Juniper interfaces is the multiple different ways of displaying things. It also is based on Linux, so if you're familiar with Linux, there's lots of different commands. In fact, let me just show you real quick. I've got a prompt that's a percent signed. My present working directory is the root. And it's Linux. You know? So there we go. Right, so now I'm back at a command prompt in order to interact with the JunOS. So they use the pipe character in Linux and in JunOS quite a bit. So show configuration pipe display set. I'm going to do a show configuration interfaces. So what you see is set interfaces, FXP0, unit 0, so on and so forth. What that is the actual configuration command that you would enter in order to configure that statement. Statements are entered in JunOS using a set command, kind of like a programmatic interface. And so it's set interfaces, and it's assigning an IP address to that interface. Nice thing about that, if you do a display set and you're trying to copy config from one device to another, you just basically pull it out of PuTTY or your console session using a copy and paste, and the set commands go right in. And it's seamless. You don't have to worry about traversing different hierarchies. You just go to a config prompt and enter it. All right, so let's go into config mode. There is no config T, it's just config. Notice the prompt has changed to a hash symbol, indicating I'm in configuration mode. Let's change the IP address. All right, so I changed the IP address of that interface. It was a 100 address, and now it's a 192.168.1. In Juniper's JunOS, what I've just done is basically nothing. I've altered what's known as the candidate configuration. So there's the config that's actually running on the router, and I've changed the candidate configuration, which is just one that's out there that's not going to actually get put into place until I do a commit. Similar to a programmatic interface, as I said. And if I want to see that, this is an important thing. Show pipe compare. One of my favorite commands in Juniper. This tells me what's changing. And you can see I didn't remove the other address. What you're seeing is a plus sign. So really what I should have done if I want to change the IP address is also do a delete. All right, so now I've deleted the other IP because in Juniper you could have more than one IP addresses on an interface perfectly fine. Actually, it's pretty commonly done. Another show pipe compare. And now what we have is a minus sign, indicating that line is getting ripped out of config. And the way you apply it is with the commit command. Now, I'm an old school JunOS guy, so I've just got this burned into my brain. I don't think I could do it any other way now. Commit synchronize. So in Cisco terms, there's something called a route processor, and on super high-end routers, you get more than one route processor, and it's super cool. And then you could fail them over and what. Juniper is just every router comes with basically two routing engines. That's what they call them, REs, routing engines. There's basically no reason to run Juniper if you don't have two routing engines. Their redundancy is part of the whole experience. These routers are designed to not go down. In fact, at my last job, I worked there for over 9 years, and I never shut down a Juniper router. We had Juniper routers all over the place, never shut one down. One of my colleagues did. I actually stood over his shoulder while he issued the command. It's a request system halt. And it's a very rare command. You just don't do it because you got redundant routing engines. Anyway, so the commit synchronize says take this candidate configuration, make it the active configuration, but also do it on the backup routing engine. So do it on both. Now, the reason why I say it's not necessary is commonly the default configuration nowadays comes with the synchronize command already in there. But I've just got this so burned into my brain that I can't do a commit without doing synchronize. And actually, it's not commit synchronize. It's commit confirmed to synchronize. That's the command. That is the command that everyone wants to run because confirmed indicates that if I don't say, yes, this is good, in the next 2 minutes, JunOS will roll back. Now, let me tell you where this is good. It's 2 a.m. on a Friday night, and you're doing a maintenance on a router that's 700 miles away from you, that 60,000 people are connected to currently, surfing the internet, doing whatever they do at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you're issuing a command that's changing the config on that. Now, if that jacks up the config and these 60,000 people all of a sudden lose their internet, you want a way to get it back. And generally, you'll also have console access into a router, but let's just say you don't. So the commit confirmed, if I don't interact in the next 2 minutes and do a commit, it's going to roll back and recover and remove all the changes that I just did in order to mess things up. And then I can get back in and be like, oh, what did I just do? That was so stupid. Great command. I always do commit confirmed. And 2 means 2 minutes. That's a good number. The default is 10 minutes. So commit confirm to synchronize, that command has been burned into my brain for a long time. There's a way to do that in Cisco, and I forgot how to do it, where it's roll back in, I think is the command, where it will roll back and config in 10 minutes. Then you can cancel it if everything's okay. So similar concept is just not commonly done in Cisco, but it's done all the time in Juniper. So commit confirm to synchronize. Let's just do it. What the heck, right? Well, there's the one IP address. I don't know if I'm actually connected to that. Truth is, so this if I had these show pipe compare, I have these two commands, and I'm like, you know what? That's stupid. I don't want to do that. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to knock these 60,000 people off the router, and they're not going to be able to do whatever they're doing at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. So I'm going to roll back. Now I could roll back different commands. The default is rollback. Let's see, rollback 1 is the default. What the fuck? All right. Anyway, someone else was on this router, it looks like. Whatever. Anyway, you can roll back to different instances of the backed up config through time. So whatever. It confirmed to synchronize. Oh, this is a VMX, so there's no 2 routing engines. Yeah, but in physical routers, there's 2 routing. All right, so there is a warning here saying that the commit will be rolled back in 2 minutes. Actually, looks like I lost access to the router. That IP address must have been important. In 2 minutes, it'll come back. All right, came back. Case in point. All right, so there's no show IP interface brief. Sorry, doesn't exist. What there is show interface terse. You see that up, down, up, down, up, down, up nonsense? So what if I only want to see the up interfaces? You can't type the word up and match on that. In JunOS, there's a match command, which is the same thing as the grep command. In fact, it's, the word match is an alias for the word grep in JunOS. So I just use grep. All right, so I need to type up and then escape the space, escape the space, escape the space. Try that. Let's add another space. There we go. Here's all the down interfaces. Here's all the up interfaces. Capiche? All right. Good, good. If I just want to see the iNet interfaces. So every interface has a physical interface, and then it has a unit number for the logical interface. And then it has a family, very similar in Cisco terms to named mode in EIGRP and OSPF, BGP named mode, family of protocols. Same concept in JunOS. All right. What else do we got? Show chassis hardware, it actually shows you what you have on the device. What is physically there on the device. It's good for isolating SFPs. And there's a long discussion about the FPC and the MIC and the PIC in Juniper lingos, but it basically has to do with the numbering of the interface also. Is similar in Cisco terms. Okay. Next thing is the show chassis routing engine. As I said, most of the time there's two routing engines, and to see which one is active is an important exercise to go through. Show system alarms. All right, so show system alarms. If you look at my screen, this right here will put an amber LED on the face of the device in the craft location. And whenever I'm setting up a device, I always like to walk away with everything green. And to get rid of this, it is request system software say rescue. No, not software. Request system configuration rescue. Save. All right. When I press this, it creates a rescue configuration. And that cleared that alarm, minor alarm. This other one talks about a licensing thing, and we can't get rid of that because this is not our device. You got to contact sales and get a license and put it on there. But the other one is a very common thing. The rescue configuration is not saved, so you have an amber LED on your craft LED. And in order to get rid of that, you do a request system configuration rescue save. Configuration is broken into sections. The system section is first, has services subsection. Is also where your syslog goes, fun things like that. Chassis. One of the things that's an important command in the chassis I'll go through in just a second. You also do virtual chassis there. And then your interfaces and VLANs. VLANs are in different sections on routers versus switches, but regardless, similar concept in both locations and configuration sections. Is the command that and you'll notice when you press set, you can do a question mark. You can see all the commands that are available in that section. Oh, you know what? I think it's in a different section on a router. I'm normally doing this on a switch. Um, Ethernet device count. All right. So underneath the chassis section of the config, you do a set aggregated device Ethernet device count and then a number. Without doing that, you can't do any 802.3 AD lags. I don't know why. You would have thought that it would have just been dependent on hardware, but it's also dependent on configuration, and the default configuration does not have 802.3 permissible. You have to add this command, and then you could create. So let's do it. Do it real quick. Oh, another thing in Cisco, it's do show, right? Same thing in Juniper is run show. I'm just going to do a show. All right, so whatever I've got, I'm trying to figure out how many interfaces I have. Let me just create a quick interface. To get to the top of the config right now, I was in the system section. You type the word top or you type exit, similar to Cisco. All right, so I'm now at the top of the configuration. I'm going to edit interfaces, edit AE0. This is an aggregate interface or an 802.3 AD lag. I'm going to do give it address. We're going to make it a layer 3 lag. Set a minimum links to 1. I'm going to make it LACP active. It also enables LACP protocol on this interface. That should do it. All right, so there's my configuration changes that is currently loaded in the candidate config. And in order to apply that, I would do a commit confirmed to synchronize. And this being a VMX, the synchronize won't have any effect, but because I've been doing this for such a long time, I can't help myself but to type it. Oh yeah, it's not going to work because there's no links inside the aggregate. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, I'm always used to doing this on a switch. On a router, it's a slightly different command. It is where is it? Not on this. It's not on this device. That's so weird. I think it's Giga Ether options on an MX, but this is a VMX. For some reason, it doesn't have it. Yeah, that's very strange. This interface doesn't have it. Anyway, all right. That's basically it. I'm going to stop there. I can go on with configuration changes that I normally do for a very long time. But the show pipe compare, the commit confirmed to synchronize, those are all very common commands and important. The show configuration pipe display set is very common, and the show interfaces terse are very common.